The unexpected rejection. In the heart of a bustling city, the sun shone brightly on a day that seemed ordinary, but for an influential family, it would turn into a lesson that nobody expected. Sundar Pichai, the CEO of one of the world's most powerful tech companies, and his wife, an elegant and kind-hearted woman named Ananya, were preparing for a special evening. They planned to attend a prestigious charity gala, an event where they often met friends, supported causes, and inspired others. Ananya, known for her grace and humility, decided to visit a well-known luxury store earlier that day. She wanted to buy a beautiful dress that would befit the occasion, something simple yet elegant that reflected her quiet confidence. As she entered the store, her calm presence and warm smile were met with cold, indifferent stares. The store's employees, unaware of her identity, hesitated as she approached. The woman behind the counter, with a sharp look and dismissive tone, said, "Sorry, madam, but we do not carry items for your kind here." Ananya froze, surprised by the rejection. Her skin prickled with the sting of exclusion, but she maintained her composure. She tried to explain that she was a customer looking for a dress, but the saleswoman's attitude only grew colder. Outside the store, Ananya's mind raced with confusion and sadness. How could this happen to someone who had always treated others with respect? She knew this wasn't just about her clothes, it was a reflection of deeper prejudices and judgments. Yet rather than retreat in silence, Ananya decided to turn this painful moment into a powerful message. When Sundar returned home and heard what had happened, he was shocked and deeply moved. He realized that despite his success and the world's admiration, his family still faced barriers in everyday life that were hidden behind fancy storefronts and polite smiles. Sundar knew that this incident was more than just a personal slight. It was a call to action. The story of Ananya's rejection quickly spread through social media and news outlets, not because they sought attention, but because the truth resonated with many. People from all walks of life shared their own stories of rejection, prejudice, and resilience. Sundar and Ananya's response was clear. They would not let this moment define them, but use it to inspire change. Instead of anger or revenge, they chose kindness, perseverance, and empathy. They visited local communities, spoke at schools, and launched initiatives that promoted inclusion and respect for all, regardless of background or status. Their story became a beacon of hope, showing that true leadership is not only about power but also about compassion. This was only the beginning. As Sundar and Ananya faced the challenges ahead, they discovered the strength within themselves and others to overcome obstacles that seemed insurmountable. This journey would teach them, and the world, that sometimes the hardest moments lead to the most extraordinary transformations. The power of resilience. The rejection at the luxury store was a small moment in time, but its ripples stretched far beyond what anyone could have imagined. Ananya sat quietly that evening, reflecting on the day's events. Though the sting of exclusion lingered, she refused to let bitterness grow in her heart. Instead, she chose to see this as a chance to show the strength of grace and resilience. Sundar, meanwhile, felt a fire ignite within him. He thought about the countless people around the world who faced rejection, discrimination, or invisibility every day. He thought about the power of empathy, how important it was for leaders to use their influence not just for profit or power, but to uplift others. "Ananya," he said softly one evening, "this is more than just a dress or a store. It's about standing for something greater, kindness, respect, and dignity for every person." With those words, the couple began to take action. Sundar reached out to leaders in business, education, and community organizations, proposing initiatives to promote inclusivity and awareness. Ananya used her voice through social media and public speaking, sharing her story and encouraging others to embrace empathy. The world began to listen. Stories poured in from people who had felt unseen, those rejected for the color of their skin, their background, or simply because they didn't fit a certain mold. Through these stories, a community of resilience was born. Sundar and Ananya became symbols of hope, not because they were untouchable, but because they showed vulnerability and courage. Ananya started a campaign called The Grace Project, focusing on kindness in everyday life. She encouraged people to reach out to those who had been hurt by rejection, to listen without judgment, and to build bridges where walls had been. The campaign grew rapidly, touching millions worldwide. Sundar took on a different but equally important challenge within the corporate world. He pushed for diversity programs, fair hiring practices, and leadership training that emphasized emotional intelligence. He believed that businesses could be powerful forces for good if led with heart, as well as vision. The journey was not without difficulty. There were critics who doubted their sincerity or accused them of using the story for publicity. There were moments of exhaustion, when the weight of expectation felt heavy. But Sundar and Ananya held fast to their belief that change was possible. One day, Ananya received a letter from a young woman named Maya. She wrote about her own struggles with rejection and loneliness, how hearing Ananya's story gave her hope to keep going. Maya's words reminded Ananya why she had to keep speaking out, that every small act of kindness could light up even the darkest places. Sundar and Ananya's story showed the world a truth that too often goes unspoken. Success does not shield anyone from hardship, but it can provide a platform to fight for justice and compassion. They proved that leadership is not about perfection, but about resilience, humility, and the courage to face pain and transform it into hope. As the months passed, their influence expanded beyond anything they imagined. People from different cultures, ages, and walks of life joined the movement, creating a wave of kindness that could not be ignored. The rejection at the luxury store, once a moment of pain, had become the seed for a global change. And yet, Sundar and Ananya knew this was only the beginning. The real test lay ahead, in how they would continue to build a world where everyone could feel valued and seen, where rejection no longer defined a person's worth. Their journey was a testament to the human spirit. No matter the obstacles, with kindness and perseverance, anyone could rise above pain and lead others into a brighter future, rising beyond rejection. The days following the launch of the Grace Project were filled with both triumph and challenge. Ananya's message of kindness resonated deeply, yet it also opened up raw wounds for many people around the world who had endured rejection and exclusion. Letters and messages poured in, from children who felt invisible in their schools, to adults who had been shut out by society, to elders whose wisdom had been ignored. Ananya read these stories late into the night, feeling a profound connection to every voice. She understood that rejection was not just a moment of hurt, it was often a lifelong battle that shaped a person's identity and their hope for the future. But in the midst of this pain, she found stories of courage, of people rising beyond their rejection and choosing to create a better life. Sundar was inspired by Ananya's growing influence and the impact of their work. He believed that real change must be systemic and not just symbolic. At Google, he pushed harder to create opportunities for underrepresented groups, sponsoring scholarships, mentorship programs, and leadership workshops designed to break down barriers. One afternoon, Sundar met with a young programmer named Arjun, who had overcome poverty and discrimination to win a spot in one of the company's coveted internships. Arjun's story touched Sundar deeply, not just because of his talent, but because of his relentless determination to prove that rejection would not define him. "When I was a kid," Arjun said, "people told me I wouldn't make it because of where I came from. But I learned that rejection is just a redirection. It doesn't mean the end, it means there is a different path waiting." Sundar smiled and nodded, seeing in Arjun the same spirit that had guided his own journey from a modest home in India to the helm of a global tech empire. He realized that his greatest responsibility was to open doors that others had slammed shut, so no one would have to feel the pain Ananya experienced in that store. Back in the public eye, Ananya's speeches grew more powerful. She spoke at conferences, schools, and community centers, always emphasizing that rejection was not a reflection of one's worth, but a call to find inner strength. Her message was clear. Everyone deserves to be seen and respected, no matter their background or appearance. One particularly moving speech brought tears to the eyes of thousands. Ananya shared the story of a mother who had been rejected by her community for speaking out about injustice, only to find strength through the support of strangers who became a new family. The audience felt the raw emotion and the transformative power of empathy. Meanwhile, Sundar worked quietly behind the scenes to build alliances with other leaders, forging partnerships that would expand their reach. He knew that true change required a united front. Businesses, governments, and communities working together to dismantle prejudice and build inclusion. The couple's lives were busier than ever, but they remained grounded by their shared vision and values. Each evening, they would discuss new ideas and reflect on the stories they had heard, drawing strength from the collective courage of those they had met. Despite their success, Sundar and Ananya never forgot the painful moment in that luxury store. It was a reminder that appearances could be deceiving and that kindness must come from the heart, not just from status or wealth. They also faced criticism. Some accused them of being too idealistic or questioned their motives. But Sundar and Ananya welcomed these challenges, knowing that change was never easy and that every obstacle was an opportunity to learn and grow. One day, Ananya received a message from a little girl named Leela who wrote, "Your story gave me courage to stand up when people say I don't belong. Thank you for showing me how to be strong and kind." These words became a beacon for Ananya. They reminded her that behind every act of rejection was a chance to inspire resilience, and that the smallest gestures of kindness could create ripples of hope. As the movement grew, Sundar and Ananya began planning a global summit focused on inclusion and empathy. They invited voices from around the world, survivors of rejection, community leaders, innovators, and dreamers, to come together and shape a future where everyone could rise beyond their pain. This summit would be more than just an event. It would be a testament to the power of human connection and the belief that no one should ever be defined by a moment of rejection. In this way, Sundar and Ananya's journey became a living example of how the human spirit could overcome darkness with light, and how true leadership means lifting others up even when the path is difficult. And so, with courage in their hearts and a vision for a better tomorrow, they continued their fight, not just for themselves, but for all those who had ever felt rejected, unseen, or unworthy. Because the greatest victory is not escaping pain, but rising beyond it. The challenge of change, the momentum from Ananya's campaign and Sundar's initiatives had sparked a global conversation about rejection, empathy, and resilience. Yet, as their message spread, so did the complexities of real-world change. Sundar and Ananya quickly learned that shifting hearts and systems was far more difficult than they had imagined. Behind the scenes, Sundar faced resistance from some corners of the corporate world. Certain executives and stakeholders questioned the focus on social issues, arguing that business should only focus on profits and innovation. Others feared that prioritizing inclusion would slow down growth or cause conflict within teams. One afternoon, during a high-stakes board meeting, Sundar stood firm against pressures to dilute the company's diversity programs. His voice was calm but resolute. Innovation thrives when everyone's voice is heard. Exclusion limits us all. If we want to lead in technology, we must lead in humanity. His words inspired some, but also fueled tension. Sundar realized leadership meant balancing competing interests while staying true to values. This challenge pushed him to become not only a visionary, but a patient and persistent advocate for lasting change. Meanwhile, Ananya encountered skepticism in her public outreach. Some critics accused her of oversimplifying complex social issues, or questioned whether her personal experience was representative of broader struggles. She also faced personal doubts, wondering if her kindness and hope could truly overcome entrenched prejudices. One evening, after a long day of speaking engagements, Ananya confided in Sundar. "Sometimes it feels like we're fighting a tide that never ends. How do we keep going when the world seems so divided?" Sundar took her hand and said gently, "Change is never easy, Ananya, but every story we share, every person we touch, it all adds up. We are planting seeds, even if the garden takes time to grow." Their faith in each other and in their mission became a source of strength. They reminded themselves that setbacks were part of the journey, not signs of failure. Each challenge deepened their commitment to creating a world where kindness and respect were the norm, not the exception. The couple's efforts also sparked inspiring stories of transformation. A company that once resisted inclusion initiatives launched a mentorship program after Sundar's persistent advocacy. Schools introduced empathy curricula inspired by Ananya's talks. Communities organized events celebrating diversity and resilience. These successes fueled the couple's resolve, proving that small victories could build momentum for greater change. Sundar and Ananya also used setbacks as teaching moments, openly sharing their struggles to show that leadership was about perseverance, not perfection. One powerful encounter deeply moved Ananya. She met a young refugee named Sami, who had fled violence and discrimination in his homeland. Despite unimaginable hardships, Sami's spirit remained unbroken. He told Ananya how her story gave him hope that kindness could exist even in the darkest times. "Your courage helps me believe in a better future," Sami said quietly. "That's a gift I will carry with me." This meeting reminded Ananya of the profound impact of empathy, how it connected people across borders, backgrounds, and pain. It strengthened her belief that change was possible when people chose compassion over fear. As Sundar and Ananya prepared for their global summit, they faced one final test. A powerful group opposed to their message launched a campaign to discredit their work, spreading misinformation and doubt. This attack tested the couple's resilience and the community they had built. Instead of retreating, Sundar and Ananya stood united, responding with transparency, truth, and unwavering kindness. Their supporters rallied, sharing stories of how the campaign had inspired hope and courage. The summit became a symbol of defiance against hate and division. Through it all, Sundar and Ananya learned that true change required bravery, not just to lead, but to stand strong in the face of opposition. They discovered that rejection, when met with resilience and love, could become a catalyst for extraordinary transformation. And so, with renewed strength and an unshakable vision, they moved forward, knowing that the path to a kinder, more inclusive world was long, but every step mattered, because real leadership is not about avoiding challenges. It is about facing them head-on and inspiring others to do the same. Seeds of transformation. The Global Summit was more than just a gathering. It was a beacon of hope, a testament to what could be achieved when people united with a common purpose. Sundar and Ananya watched as voices from every corner of the world came together to share stories of rejection, resilience, and kindness. The summit was filled with moments of laughter, tears, and powerful pledges to continue the fight for inclusion and empathy. Ananya stood before the crowd one evening, her voice steady and filled with emotion. Each of us carries the power to change a life, to lift a heart, to open a door that once seemed closed. Our past does not define us. Our kindness and courage do. The applause was thunderous, but more than that, the faces in the crowd reflected a profound understanding. Shared commitment to transform pain into progress. Sundar, meanwhile, was working tirelessly behind the scenes. Inspired by the summit's energy, he launched new initiatives within his company to support mental health, foster innovation through diversity, and create pathways for those traditionally excluded from technology careers. These programs were designed not just to provide opportunities but to build lasting communities of support and growth. The couple's efforts began to ripple outward in unexpected ways. Schools started adopting Empathy Lab, where students learned to listen deeply and connect beyond differences. Neighborhoods organized kindness challenges, encouraging residents to perform acts of generosity for strangers. Even governments began to explore policies focused on inclusion and social justice. One story that touched Sundar deeply was that of a young woman named Nisha, who grew up in a marginalized community. Inspired by the summit, she applied for an internship at Sundar's company. Despite facing numerous obstacles, she was accepted and quickly became a rising star, using her position to advocate for others like herself. "When I was rejected before," Nisha said during a panel discussion, "I thought it was the end of my dreams. But through this journey I learned that rejection can be a door to a new beginning. It taught me to fight harder, to believe in myself when no one else did. Sundar and Ananya saw in Nisha the embodiment of their mission, a testament to the power of resilience and opportunity. Yet the journey was far from over. The couple faced moments of exhaustion and doubt. The scale of the challenges sometimes felt overwhelming. There were days when the world's injustices seemed too vast to conquer, and the wounds of rejection too deep to heal quickly. In those moments, Sundar and Ananya turned inward, drawing strength from their love and shared purpose. They reminded each other of the progress made, of the lives touched and changed. "Every seed we plant matters," Ananya said one evening as they watched the sunset from their home. "Even if we don't see the full garden today, the future is growing." Their story began to inspire a new generation of leaders, people who understood that true success was measured not just in numbers or titles, but in the lives transformed by kindness, courage, and inclusion. Media outlets highlighted the couple's journey as a model for compassionate leadership, and communities across the globe embraced the lessons they championed. Sundar and Ananya's message was clear. Rejection, though painful, could be the spark for remarkable change when met with resilience and heart. As part of their ongoing work, they partnered with artists, educators, and activists to create a multimedia campaign titled Rise Beyond. It showcased stories of ordinary people overcoming extraordinary odds, united by the belief that every person deserves dignity and respect. The campaign reached millions, encouraging viewers to share their own stories and acts of kindness. It became a movement, reminding the world that the fight against rejection was not just theirs but everyone's. Sundar and Ananya's journey was no longer just about a single moment of rejection in a luxury store. It was about the enduring human spirit, its ability to heal, to connect, and to build a world where no one felt invisible or unworthy. And in this truth lay their greatest victory, that through kindness and perseverance, anyone could rise beyond rejection and help others do the same. The legacy of kindness, as the years passed, Sundar and Ananya's story continued to inspire millions around the world. What had begun as a painful rejection in a luxury store had grown into a movement, one that celebrated resilience, kindness, and the power of human connection. Their work transcended borders, languages, and cultures. People everywhere embraced the idea that no one should be defined by moments of exclusion or prejudice. Instead, every person deserved respect, opportunity, and the chance to rise beyond their challenges. Sundar often reflected on the journey that had brought them here. He remembered the early days when he faced skepticism and opposition, and when Ananya struggled with doubt. But those moments of uncertainty had forged a deeper strength, one that allowed them to lead with empathy and courage. Together, they built programs that not only opened doors but created lasting communities, places where people felt safe to be themselves, to grow, and to support each other. These communities became incubators of innovation, compassion, and social change. One of their proudest achievements was a foundation dedicated to empowering young people from marginalized backgrounds. Through scholarships, mentorship, and leadership training, the foundation helped countless individuals overcome barriers and realize their potential. Ananya's Grace Project evolved into a global network of kindness ambassadors, people committed to spreading empathy in their schools, workplaces, and neighborhoods. Their stories were shared widely, reminding the world that small acts could create extraordinary impact. Sundar and Ananya also made it a priority to listen, to truly hear the voices of those often overlooked. They traveled extensively, meeting people from all walks of life, learning their stories and sharing their own experiences. This humility grounded their leadership and kept their mission authentic. Their legacy was not measured in wealth or accolades, but in the countless lives touched and transformed. It was visible in the smile of a child who no longer felt invisible, in the confidence of a young woman stepping into her power, and in the strength of communities united by kindness. One evening, as Sundar and Ananya sat quietly watching the sunset, they spoke about the future. "Our journey will never truly end," Ananya said softly. "There will always be new challenges, new stories of pain and hope." Sundar nodded, his eyes reflecting a quiet determination. "But the seeds we have planted will grow. We have created something bigger than ourselves, a legacy of kindness that will continue to inspire long after we're gone. Their story became a beacon for leaders everywhere, a reminder that true success is built on empathy, perseverance, and the courage to face rejection with grace. It showed that no matter where you start or what obstacles you face, kindness can change the world. And so, from a moment of painful exclusion to a lifetime of compassionate leadership, Sundar Pichai and Ananya taught us all a profound truth. The greatest power lies not in what we have, but in what we give. Because when we choose kindness over judgment, hope over despair, and connection over division, we create a world where everyone has the chance to rise beyond rejection and shine. Their story is a legacy of hope, reminding us all that in the face of adversity, the human spirit can and will rise.